Okay. Now we just gotta wait for my director to give me 3, 2, 1 action. Oh, okay. I guess this is the live stream. The live stream is happening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Make some noise for being here. Thank you all for supporting Denver Philharmonic Orchestra and Mile High Films with their wonderful documentary of Symphonic Sketches. Thank you all at home for live streaming and tuning in or watching at a later time because the live stream wasn't a good time for you. That's totally fine as well. We're so happy to have you. My name is Roger Hack. I'm the Executive Director for Denver Philharmonic Orchestra. This is the very first time we've ever done anything like this before, as far as I know. We haven't done quite like a live stream event like this, so we're really excited and really appreciative of you all joining us for this. I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsors for all the things that we do here at Denver Philharmonic Orchestra. We have Ligature Creative, Brownstein Law Firm, the National Endowment for the Arts, and also a big thank you to Diebold Brewing Company for hosting us and having us here. Make some noise for Diebold. Thank you. And also a big shout out to the SCFD, the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, where 1 penny on every $10 purchase you make in the 7-county Denver metro area supports a flourishing cultural landscape of over 300 science, arts, historical, and cultural organizations. Make some noise for the SCFD. Wonderful. I've said that so many times. I do truly have it memorized. Like it's not from rehearsing. I just know that. It's just ingrained in me now. But we so appreciate all of our sponsors and everyone who donates and helps us do things like this. But you're not here to listen to me talk. You're here to watch a documentary. So without further ado, so excited to have a wonderful live stream event of Symphonic Sketches by Mile High Films. Hope you enjoy it.
For the very beginning, can we make major forte for winds, brass, percussion? Can we just try the very beginning, please? Thank you. Out of the Blue is a really special concert for me because it comes with a very diverse repertoire, and I would love to conduct Chadwick's Symphonic Sketches with the Denver Philharmonic Orchestra. I am originally from South Korea. I came to the US in 2014, studied in Baylor University, and also finished my doctorate at UT Austin. We have 2 rehearsals already, and tonight is going to be the dress rehearsal. So here, strings, can we make the notes shorter with the staccato? Much shorter. So tempo primo before letter K. Can we start right there? Thank you. Yes, thank you. Now, so for that entrance strings, ta 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 ta. Can we do much shorter? Ta 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 ta. More crispy sound. One more time, please. Thank you. It's going to be very crucial for us to make sure that we touch everything that needs to be addressed before the concert. Lighter. Let's together. Thank you so much. Can we please go back to the beginning? I really love this piece because as its title, Jubilee, it's really joyful, exciting. I think people will enjoy this for sure. I'm really thankful to Denver Philharmonic who gave me a really huge opportunity to work with the orchestra because as a young woman conductor, it's still difficult to get these kind of the chances.
I started music when I was 5 years old. Went to church on Sunday, and an old friend of mine, she said, well, I have this clarinet, if you would like to use it. And I was like, sure. And my mom at the time, you know, she was like, this is a free instrument, so yes, you're gonna play the clarinet.
The William Grant Still Afro-American Symphony presents a composer that deserves to be heard more. There is this unity throughout all four movements, but very different styles and very different characters and moods and emotions that are portrayed in each. And that's the mark of a great composer, I think.
The piece was written in 1930. Music was evolving. It was something different. It was something new. Mixing jazz, mixing blues with classical music. This was something that was going to be here to stay. I've kind of looked at this piece as kind of a rite of passage. F, 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 B flat, 3, 4, 1. When I play this music, I think about the struggles that African Americans had. I think about people that may have wanted to perform music like this but didn't have the opportunities to do it. That goes beyond the notes on the page.
I think it's our mandate in this time to present the works of underrepresented composers that simply have not been given their due.
Diversity should be spread throughout an orchestra's season, and in fact, season after season. We are for everybody, and we should play music by everybody.
I felt honored for the fact that I was able to perform this piece, because someone like that did pave the way for me to be where I am today.
I think audiences can support diversity in music by buying tickets, by being present, and by encouraging others to come with them. I often tell audiences, love to see you and 7 of your closest friends next time.
I'm Sheng Kai. I'm a concert pianist. I'm happy to be here with the Denver Philharmonic. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, but I travel all over the world to perform concerts. I started piano more like a hobby when I was like 4 or 5. When I first considered to be a serious musician, it was around the age of 13 or 14, because at that time I started to play with orchestras. If my emotions come out like facial or body expressions come out, I think it's more like genuine, you know, it's more natural. The music's so great that you don't really need to say that I want to play it like this or that, because this music and me is like one, you know, together.
Experiencing a live concert with a full orchestra, it's a sonic event like none other. Just the sheer virtuosity and the energy and the positivity of this music is really overwhelming, I think, if one is open to it.
I hope that there is an audience and performer connection. As an artist, I'm trying to deliver a message to all these people in the hall. We have a limited amount of concerts we can go to in our lifetime. So I hope that this concert can be one of the concerts that people might cherish for a long time.
So much for watching the documentary with us as a group. We really appreciate. Thank you. And keep the applause going for the ones and onlys in plural. Chris, Barron, and Daniel. I apologize, Daniel. I don't have your last name. They part of the film. Oh, and Lawrence is here as well. I don't know if Lawrence wanted to be a part of this and coming up. Wonderful. I'll let you all, here, we can move this stool down there and I'll stand. That way the three of you all can be together. But make some noise for the film crew themselves in the flesh. How often do we get to have something like this? We're so excited to have you. Thank you for taking part and being a part of this. I didn't get to tell you before when with the microphone, make sure it's like touching your chin. Otherwise, we're not going to probably hear you.
Chin.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you hear me? Touching my chin.
Wonderful. Well, now we're at the fun part with the question and answer portion of this. None of this was rehearsed ahead of time, so they have no idea what I'm about to ask them. What's your favorite color and why? That's actually the first question. No, the first question is what drew you to the subject of Denver Philharmonic Orchestra, and why did you end up centering it around the orchestra?
Well, thank you very much for having us and for that question. It all started with Cassie, who's running the show tonight. She's the one who introduced me to the orchestra, and when I realized what she did and what she filmed and what you guys were up to in the orchestra, I wanted to be a part of it under any circumstances. And so she invited me to a rehearsal, and we were able to see some of the performers that are in the film. And it was an inspiring evening. I'll never forget it, honestly, because I'm used to watching I'm used to shooting like commercials and sales videos, and suddenly this unbelievable art was on my little camera, on my little monitor, and I'm sitting here with a couple more camera guys that have seen these things. I don't know if it affected them quite the same way it did me, but I'll never forget the first time I got to film classical music, and it was because of Cassie and the DPO. So I'll let Lawrence have a shot at it.
Yeah, again, it's a one-of-a-kind experience. It's like Chris said, it's normally we're shooting, maybe just somebody talking about whatever certain product or whatever they have to introduce you today, but there's, a little bit more cinematic art and, performance behind it that's really awesome to get to capture and be a part of.
Yeah, I was really excited whenever Chris asked me to come work on this with him, because I'd never been to an orchestra. I'd never seen a live performance like any of that. And so we got to go to, we were there a few times and got to see rehearsals and other things. And being around other artists is why I do what I do anyways. It's just a beautiful mesh. So doing what I'm good at, seeing them do what they're good at, and watching everybody else do what they're good at is just a pleasure.
Gosh, it's so fun hearing all of that. Next question I have, what were the biggest challenges when filming a live event like this? And how did you try to plan ahead and adapt on the fly?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge was my overwhelming ignorance about classical music. It's hard to explain how much I didn't know, and it was a matter of kind of like figuring out, oh, they rehearse and they stop and they rehearse and then they go and then they do the whole thing, and trying to just kind of be exposed to that world for the first time was awesome, but also like pretty nerve-wracking too, because I never knew what was going on and I was just always bewildered. But I think that makes it fun, you know, and this is definitely a passion project for all of us, and that's part of the fun, is being somewhere new, being around something awesome like classical music. And so there were many challenges, but they all probably could have been avoided with a little bit of research. So.
Yeah, again, I mean, pretty much elaborating on what Chris said. There was definitely a lot of challenges. We weren't sure maybe what they were going to do. You had to kind of anticipate a lot of things, but I mean, you definitely kind of got the groove of it, and then you kind of got the idea of how, you know, the flow of how things were starting to work. So.
I feel like Chris took care of all the challenges. Like, I felt like, you know, I came to him and I said, these are the challenges. And he's like, I know, I already figured them out. Here's how you handle that. So it was really cool to have Chris in charge for all of that. But just being out of the way, knowing where you should and shouldn't be, and just staying in the lane of what we were there to do, not getting in the way of the performance, but also capture it as beautifully as we could.
Well, that makes me curious. I have to ask, was there a moment during filming where in the moment went, oh crap, this isn't going to work and I got to make a pivot and change?
Yeah, oh crap is my constant refrain. That's just always going on. There's something that, if I'm not saying it, there's something wrong. No, that, you know, I think it was a pleasant surprise when we were able to get the interviews with the artists. That was not something that we were sure we were going to be able to do. You know, they were guest performers and they had, you know, pretty tight schedules, and we didn't know what the heck we were doing anyway. So when we were able to get those interviews is when I could kind of see that it was going to be not just, you know, the best, prettiest shots with music. It's like, oh, there's plenty to talk about here. There's so much to talk about. And this movie could have been 45 minutes long because these artists had so much to say. But really the idea was that, okay, they've given us so much to work with. Let's turn this around into something that can be positive for the orchestra and show people that haven't been to the DPO what they're missing out on. And so, you know, I wish the movie could be 4 times longer, but I think it serves the purpose. So, yeah.
Well, next question, I'll pull it up. What were the biggest lessons learned throughout the entire production for you all?
I'm going to pass over to you. Would you got anything on this one? Mm-hmm. I'll let you think about it. Daniel, you got anything on this one? All right.
I learned a lot. More than anything, my respect for, you know, career musicians or even people who are in between. Not quite sure how it works at DPO, but my respect is immense. And so it just like I said earlier, being around other artists, being around people who take what they do very seriously, and it gave that to me. Like, I wanted to do the best I could because everybody else was bringing their A game. And so it just, it was a great learning experience in terms of just, you know, realizing what's at stake and what people put into their arts.
I mean, for me, it's kind of silly thing, but you know, I do a lot of commercials and things like that, and so I'm used to making sure clients are happy. You know, that's a good job is if a client's happy. And for this job, I was the client, and it was really one of the first times that I had to kind of just like trust my own instincts in the editing room and be like, this I like, this I don't like. Well, this the client will like. I'm the client. I hate this. You know, and there's a lot of arguing with myself and a little bit of schizophrenia. But ultimately, I was really happy with how it turned out, and I think that it was just because I didn't have any other clients to worry about along the way. So
I would say, I guess, one of the things I never really used to working with or had to learn about was just in general an orchestra. I've never done that, and it was an awesome experience. Never done it, but it was, you know, a learning curve, as everything can be sometimes, I guess.
there's a lot to learn.
Yeah. I definitely understand that feeling for sure. The next question is, how do you collaborate and communicate with a multi-camera setup? That's a really, that's something I have a hard time as someone that's never really done any sort of film work other than with just my phone, like how do you all do that with multi-camera and communicating, working together? And then what are you looking for as camera operators, and how do you make sure you're prepared to capture the best shots and in that collaborative environment?
I'm gonna let these guys think about the second half of the question while I answer the first part, which is that we just, like with everything, we did it wrong. It got better, and now we got it figured out, you know. And so at first it was just like, okay, well, take a battery and a card and go over there and get what you can. And when you finish, let me know. And then maybe we start texting messaging a little bit. Okay, go over there. Or what about this? Can you bring me something? And it's just like, oh my gosh, we're just running around like idiots, you know, like, oh, this is over there. And finally, I invested in just an intercom system. So like we all wear like little headsets and things. And I mean, I remember ordering it and I'm like, this is so dumb. Why am I doing this? Add to cart. I shouldn't do this. And then like that night we used it and I was like, oh my God. And plus it's fun then because like we can all chat, you know, like something boring's going on or we're waiting, like, hey man, what's going on? What are you doing later? You know, and we can, so it was a lot of fun, you know, it made it better. So intercom system, way to go. But as far as like shooting for good shots, I'll let Daniel start with that.
I think there was just a lot of trust because Chris had a lot of really amazing camera ops there, and they were all, you know, they're all professionals, and so just knowing where you can be and knowing what your job is, and so you know, like for example, I was stuck in one part of, or at least one side for a while, and just knowing that I'm getting the guy on the piano. That's what I'm going to do. And there's somebody else getting another awesome shot of him, and just trusting that everybody's doing their jobs, listening to whatever Chris is saying over the comms. And yeah, it's really comes down to a really great team and a lot of them. Like there was a lot of people there.
How do you find good shots?
Well, again, kind of just elaborating on what everyone already said. It's just, you know, everyone knows what they're doing. You kind of just focus on what you're supposed to get, and you know the guy over there is definitely getting a great shot, and you just make sure you got a really good shot, and it all works out.
You know, I'd say the other thing too is real quick is that it became obvious to me that like we don't often get good shots, and like I would shoot all night for a rehearsal, and if I got 5 good shots, I'd be oh sweet, look at this, and my wife would be like, that's it. I'd be like, yeah, but. And so it was lots of us, it was lots of days, and you know, that's the result. It takes a long time to get there. So
that's amazing. Well, in how you said it takes a long time to get there, I'm also curious, over that length of time, how did the story and the structure of that film evolve as the shoot moved along? And what topics / questions were you prioritizing in those interviews?
During the production, once we had the interviews, it was pretty clear what we were going to do in terms of following the structure of the concert. And you know, it was the concert that we filmed was in the 3 pieces that you see in the movie are the 3 pieces that were performed that night. And so we just used that as our structure and focused on one performer from each presentation. And it started with Yoona, the conductor from the first bit. She was, you know, she's probably as much responsible for this movie existing because we were all inspired by what she was doing at the podium. And then you know, I spoke with some of the other members of the orchestra, and you know, we talked to Kwame, and he had a terrific story. He related to this piece really well. And then when we saw Shen Kai performing as well, we were like, okay, we just need a few minutes of this guy because he's incredible. He's going to have a great story to tell. So it was a matter of you know, just getting the stuff in the can really, and letting them and not screwing it up. Not you know, I always think when I edit these things, I'm like, Chris, stop talking. You're asking a question for minutes. You don't need to talk. You just need to say something, you know. And so that was the thing, is getting out of our own way, letting the people tell their story, and then finding the best bits from that.
Wonderful. Well, following up on that, I want to talk about the process of post-production. You got the entire story, you got to talk to everybody. So first question is more directed toward Chris. However, anyone else can jump in too. Chris, what were you thinking when you saw all the footage all at once? And how did you go about piecing the film together? And what was your main focus?
Yeah, it's exciting to get the footage back on a project like this because it's a passion project. You know, I mean, if I'm doing something for like the government or whatever. It's like, I don't even look at the footage that night. I just go home and maybe I download it, maybe I don't. But this footage, it was like every night pouring through it. Oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, look at this. We had photographic effects on these, filters and things. So, let's see how this filter turned out. It was like playtime, even though it was 2:00 in the morning. And that doesn't happen on any other jobs for me anyway. So I was not as intimidated as I probably should have been by the amount of footage we had. And instead, it was just really fun. And the other thing that was great about this project was that the music is so awesome throughout. Normally if I'm cutting a spot, I've got like a little like Geico jingle bouncing around the studio for 2 weeks, and that's what I'm listening to. Instead, I had Beethoven and all these other great musicians and performers, and to fill the studio. So I probably dragged the editing out a little bit longer for that reason. But it was a pleasure. It really was.
That's cool. Well, and now for Lawrence and Daniel. Did either of you get the opportunity to see multiple edits and give notes by chance? And what was your reaction when you first saw the film?
Yeah. So when I first saw the film, I was astonished to see, I guess, just some of my stuff in it. I guess it's just kind of weird and whatever, maybe straightforward as that is. It's cool to see some of the stuff that you shot on there, and then cool to see some other stuff that like, oh, hey, that guy was next to me, and I know he was getting that angle, and that was really cool to see that, and just some of the creative shots that some people got. It's cool to see all this. Everyone was there getting shots and getting good stuff, but to see it all like cut and edit together, it's just that's what it's like. All right, there you go. There it is. That's sweet. That's cool.
Yeah, Chris had sent me a rough cut. At some point, a few months after shooting, and yeah, it was great. And I don't think I gave him any notes. Whenever you send someone a rough cut, sometimes it's like implied. It's like, hey, I'm telling you it's rough because like, don't critique this because like I'm gonna fix it. I know what's wrong with it, but I want you to see a little bit of it. So I respecting that because I often send people little bits of what I'm working on or whatever, but I trusted that he was going to pull it together whenever, I sat through, I think all the interviews with Chris. He knew what he was going to tell and he knew how he was going to tell it and with the questions he was asking and what he was going for. So I trusted that he was going to do that. What I was surprised by whenever I first saw it, knowing how much footage we had, and knowing how long our interviews were, is how concise he made it. And, chopping your film up, and, it's way easier to make it longer than it is to make it shorter. So I was very impressed with how he was able to pull out the best parts and then just stay on topic and keep the audience engaged, because it's way too easy to just ramble because you got all this beautiful footage. And I saw the footage that people were getting, and there was a lot, Yeah.
I'm curious now then, what was the hardest darling you had to kill?
There was so many, there's some shots in the film with special filters so that kind of like do mirrors and make streaks and stuff like that. And I had like so much beautiful, weird, abstract, avant-garde footage, and I think that actually there's a part with the intermission where it's like kind of dark and the musicians aren't playing in the middle of the songs. And I had opened the film with that part and it was like creepy and weird and had all these like strange shots. My wife's like, "What is wrong with you? What kind of movie is this?" And like, okay. So there was some, but I had to put the darker side away. But
I want to see that.
Yeah, it was good.
If you don't mind sending me,
it was cool.
me that,
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Ominous.
Do any of you have any favorite behind the scenes stories that you can share with us? The funnier or the more heartfelt, the better.
All right.
I think he was the DP, Justin. I don't know his last name, Justin. When we first got there, I'm not sure what night it was on. Maybe it was the actual performance night. Yeah, something. But everybody's energized. We're all pulling gear out and loading into the church. And Justin whips out his drone. He's like, "I'm gonna whip around this church with my drone and capture everything." And he just, I don't know what happened, but he crashed it into the steeple or whatever the hell that thing's called. He crashed it immediately into the church, like into the top of the church where no one can get to. So like, and it was that was hilarious. And I don't know how that resolved, but I was like, you guys can deal with that. So
Yeah, he crashed it so great. The footage is pretty fantastic too. It's like it goes up and then it crashes into the wall, and it's like, dude, how did you do that? But we did get to go up into the like catacombs or up in the attic and all that up there, and took some pictures. And there were so many dead birds on the top of that thing. It was terrible. But we got the drone back, and it still flies. So yeah, that's
Very
funny.
nice.
I forgot about that.
Very
Did you have
nice.
anything? I don't think it was,
No, nothing funny, nothing heartfelt. That's fine.
nothing else funny happened ever.
Nothing funny happens ever at all. Nothing. That's fine. Do you have any other? What are your? I guess the question is next plans in general, or do you have any other plans or hopes and dreams with Denver Philharmonic Orchestra again?
Well, these guys have both helped me out in another documentary. So we'll be hopefully here next year talking about the next one. And it's going to be longer morning. It's going to be like 45 minutes long. But it's going to be awesome. And it's about the conducting workshop that the DPO puts on. So last year they had 14 students from all over the world come and can be a part of this conducting workshop. So this documentary will be about those students and the art of conducting a little bit. And I, for one, have learned something about what goes on behind the podium. And I'm excited to put it in a movie.
Man,
yeah, it should be good.
That's so exciting. That's gonna be. I can't wait to see that.
It's gonna be good.
Keep all the avant-garde shots in there for sure. Another question that I have for you, final one from me. Who is your favorite composer, and why is it Ludwig van Beethoven?
It has to be Beethoven.
Yep.
At all times. It's always Beethoven. And it started with Clockwork Orange for me. I think that was probably just bringing it back that way for you.
Nice.
Favorite composer?
Mozart. He was a party animal. I think he's great. Just like his vibe.
Beethoven as well. Just classic. I mean,
It's supposed to be a joke. I didn't realize there was going to actually be 2 of 3 was going to be truly Beethoven. How cool is that? That's great. Now, the next up is if anyone had questions here. If you all had any questions, you're more than welcome to shout them out, and then I'll repeat them. But yeah.
What is your favorite bit of music or orchestra trivia?
Oh, I like that one. So for those who are at home who can't hear because we can't pass our microphone around, what is your favorite piece of orchestral classical music trivia that you may have picked up on throughout the creation of this film? And it's, I have my favorite that I'll share later, but.
Yeah, I asked, I think Shanghai, I was like, what's the difference? What's the difference in a Philharmonic and an orchestra? And he was like, nothing. So that was it.
I guess maybe just fully understanding what is an orchestra and like what does it all entail. I mean, I guess like I've maybe seen cartoons, but I've never actually like been to one. So it's like, okay, now I get what all the moving parts and the pieces that I normally wouldn't, I guess, never would have understood otherwise.
Mine, I guess, came from one of the other concerts we filmed, and I didn't realize that you guys didn't stay on the stage if you weren't playing. You know, like I didn't realize that not everybody plays all the time, and I think it was Dan Morris who played for he played like 2 notes, and then he got up and started moving chairs. I'm like, "Are you done?" He's like, "That's it. That's trombone and orchestra." And I was like, "Okay, all right." So. Great question. Thank you.
That's amazing. I have to pivot a little bit because I just love to share this because not a lot of folks know this one. I learned this in college that Johann Sebastian Bach and Frederick Handel had the exact same teacher, the music teacher, when they were kids and they were younger. They learned from the same organ. I think it was an organ teacher specific that they learned organ from the same person. But either way, same teacher, but they never met. That's the funny thing. The 2 of them never met, but the music historians looked to see where they lived and figured out what their commute would have been from their homes to the actual music director's house itself, or the teacher's house. And they theorized that they probably had to have ridden by each other on the same road, but never met, which I think is wild. That is crazy for me to think about. I love that little piece of trivia. We had another question right here, I believe.
You mentioned that the interviews with the artists came as a
well into shooting, do you have a plan for a narrative going into it, or were you kind of just like, let's get a lot of shots and see what we get kind of thing? Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll ask the question again for the folks at home. So to repeat the question, make sure I get it right. That you were unsure going into it with what the narratives would have been or what the questions would have been for the interviewer or interviewees. Actually, can you say the last piece one more time? With the interviews coming as a surprise, was there a plan for a narrative going into it? Gotcha. Or were you just kind of shooting to see what you would get? Yeah. Was there a plan for the narratives of the interviews, or was it a see what you get as it happened?
Yeah. So the plan for the audio was to just have people mic'd, to like have Yoona mic'd when she was working with the orchestra, and have Kwame mic'd during rehearsal and things like that, and then use that content to kind of put the story together. And still the same structure, following the pieces, but having the interviews allowed us to tell the performer's story more carefully. And that was nice, you know. And it was always a goal to get interviews, but it was like, well, I don't know, they don't get here till 6, and I was like, please come earlier, and you know, that kind of thing. So it was always a hope, but I didn't expect it. And in the end, then it would have been almost like, you know, just almost like a travel documentary, kind of just hearing the natural sound, and you know, with some music video bits. That would have been the idea.
Did anyone else have any other questions? Oh, we have one other question.
What was behind your decision to film in black and white, and did that present any particular lighting challenges or other technical challenges?
Definitely. For the folks watching at home, was there any reason behind the decision ultimately to film in black and white, and did there come up with any other challenges in terms of lighting and shooting because of that decision?
Yeah, so I love black and white. I'll do everything in black and white. I mean, you know, I almost default to it, but I do think that there was a reason for it. We thought about it too. We don't shoot in black and white. You just kind of roll in color like normal, and then you make it black and white later, which is great. And you know, I remember it was actually the very first night when I'd been filming by myself, and Cassian invited me, and I'd gone in. The lighting in the church is not great. It's not very bright, and every time I tried to set up a light, it would be like somebody, it's in my eyes, it's in my eyes, and I'd be like, ah. So I never got to set up any lights until the very, very end. But so yeah, because the colors and things are not great in there. I also knew we had like 12 different cameras we were trying to match. That's probably the biggest thing, is that this one's yellow, this one's orange, this one's green, this one's magenta. And if I just push this button, they're all black and white and they're all beautiful. And but really the official filmmaker answer for it is that I wanted to draw attention to the music and not have everybody distracted by colors or mismatched cameras, bad color correction. So it's just to put a little less information on the screen for your eyes and a little bit more attention for the ears. That's the real answer.
That's amazing. I wouldn't have ever thought that. That's incredible. But after watching it so many times, now I understand why and appreciate that. That's a wonderful decision.
The next one will be in color, and it's tough. You know, I'm like, I just want to make it black and white. Just make it black and white. But I'm trying to make it color. You know?
Oh, that's brilliant.
So, we'll see.
Well, do we have any other questions? Totally fine if we don't. Wonderful. Well, I believe that's it. Unless you have questions that you feel like we should have asked that we didn't ask.
Any questions?
No? None? Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. Again, first time ever doing anything like this before with DPO. So thank you for being a part of this, joining in, tuning in, and coming up on stage, showing off your documentary and answering questions for us. It means a lot. Make some noise for our wonderful film crew with Mile High Films, and for D-Bolts as well for hosting us. Thank you all so much, and we'll do this again next year with the next documentary.
New movies coming soon.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Oh, right. I forgot. There's actually a whole other piece. So we do have an interview that we did as well with Yoona. That we did prior to this, because Yoona wasn't able to be here, but Yoona did provide some time where they ended up I guess giving some time for an interview. So we'll show that now. But otherwise, thank you all for being a part of this, and I hope you enjoy the little interview from Yoona.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Symphonic Sketches watch along. My name is Cassie Lefevre. I'm the marketing assistant with the Denver Philharmonic Orchestra, and I am here with Yoona, who we decided to do a more remote setting since she is not in Colorado.
Hi everyone, my name is Yoona Jeong. You probably will see me soon in a film. I had a chance to work with Denver Philharmonic Orchestra 2 years ago in February. That was my first time. And then I won the first prize with the competition. And then I had another great opportunity to come back to Denver, work with them in November in the same year. You are wondering that where I am right now. I am in Pennsylvania, and then this is my office at the Slippery Rock University. I am teaching here with the full-time as a full-time tenure track faculty member. It's my pleasure to meet you here. It's just incredible to realize it's been over a year since I collaborated with the Denver Philharmonic Orchestra. So since then, I've served as an assistant conductor for the Wheeling Symphony Orchestra in West Virginia and the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra in Pittsburgh. And then this year, I also guest conducted the Reno Chamber Orchestra as an assistant conductor. And most significantly, this year, I was selected as one of only 14 women conductors from a pool of 197 applicants across 47 countries to participate in the International La Maestra Conducting Competition for Women Conductors in Paris. It's a long title, but it simplified. It's La Maestra. Everyone call it La Maestra Conducting Competition. I didn't expect to be a part of the participant because how can I guess that I will be chosen among that huge pool, almost 200 from the world? And I was incredibly grateful to be a part of it. And then this opportunity also allowed me to conduct the Paris Mozart Orchestra earlier this year. So I was very grateful about that.
What do you remember about the concerts itself? What memories stand out to you?
I still remember working with the musicians there who were very supportive and did their best to make the best sound. And, they're so supportive and nice. So I cannot forget about that. Also, I remember the opportunity to have an interview for the documentary with the Mile High film team, because I was a little nervous about that when they asked me, can I interview you? In addition to recording the rehearsal and the concert. But interview itself was very meaningful to me. And also it allowed me to share my experience in the music field. So I really still remember that moment.
What was it like to see yourself on the screen and to be featured in this film?
I was not aware that there will be numerous cameras. When I got there, my only thing that I knew was I'm going to work with them. I'm going to conduct Chadwick's Symphonic Sketches. And that was it. And then once I arrived, I saw so many cameras there, and I met the Mile High Films teams, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting more serious and then professional. So I was a little bit worried and nervous that I didn't expect to see that many cameras with me, and then they were moving around while I'm talking and then rehearsing with them. So I was like, am I going to look nice on the screen? Am I conducting the gestures okay? Sometimes I thought of it, but the team was so amazing that the outcome became so wonderful and professional, and I really appreciate every effort that they put into to make this possible.
Were you able to eventually forget that the cameras are there? How long did that take you?
Yeah. Once I think I was just worried before I start to conduct, but once we start the music, you need to focus on the music and with the musicians. So I didn't worry much. But after the rehearsal, before the rehearsal, I was like, was it okay? Is my hair look fine? That's just simple thing. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I can definitely see how that would work.
Yeah.
Because you even had a camera. It was probably GoPro, right? But it was right on your conducting stand.
Yes.
So it's it was literally right on your face.
Yeah, and I think there's more 4 or 5 moving around. It's very nice. I just didn't expect to see that much.
In the film, you mentioned specifically how important it is to give more opportunities to young female conductors. Do you have any advice for young female conductors and how they can kind of break in, whether it's the way you did it or maybe they want to go a different route?
I would say it's definitely better to get an opportunity as a woman conductor these days than before. However, the music field can still be full of egos and stereotypes based on where you come from, where you studied, who you studied with, and even how you look. Sometimes they just don't like you because you wear glasses, or sometimes they don't like you because you're female or you're male. So it's really hard to break those barriers and the stereotypes. I feel like I still have some challenges, even though I'm teaching at a university, even though I'm working with several professional orchestra, there are still barriers that I need to break into. And the only way is, I believe, we need to just keep working hard, making music, presenting ourselves to the public, like Mile Higher Films, Hear Me Out, and not be afraid of showing ourselves. Be yourself, don't pretend to be someone else.
That's incredible advice for everyone, not just conductors right there.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Yoona. This was such a pleasure getting to, talk to you and meet you.
Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to visit Denver sometime again soon, and I hopefully there's a chance to work with the orchestra again. Thank you.
Yes, please do. Please do. We'd love that.
Thank you.